This is a drawing of the Wheat family tree as I drew it up with all the families from as far back as I could find on records. From here down is those in England that come over to this country before 1800. It's 4 generations of wheat that I have found in England, and that goes back to 1696. I'm Wilber Wheat Jr., the 5th generation of wheats in the United States. I have all the families that is associated with the Wheat family, so far as I know, from about 1800. Of course, there's names and dates that I don't have, records of families I don't have, but these are the families up through June and Cecil's of all the names on that family tree. There's only one that can carry the Wheat name into the 21st century, and that's John Shaner Wheat, Cecil's son, my grandson. Of all the names on there, there's no other branch of the family that can carry the name Wheat name on to the next century. Below here I have pictures of my parents as Daddy Wilber Cecil Wheat Sr. That's my mother, Fanny Matilda Schatz Wheat. And Mama's mother and father, this is Franklin Schatz. And this is Camilla Schatz. And here's my daddy's parents. This is my grandfather, Henry Clifton Wheat, and his wife, my grandmother, Clarabelle Horner Wheat. These are all the early generations of the Wheat and Schatz family that I have record of. And up through here is my brothers and sisters, except on this side, Freed and Jack. And I have their families there, and then I have Enna's family tree up here, then Alice's family tree up here. And these, all the names and dates of births, deaths, and marriages that I have record of. I think this is the earliest picture we have of Daddy. It was taken in Martinsburg, and Daddy worked at the Martinsburg carriage shop where they made buggies and carriages and wagons. Martinsburg Wagon Works, I think it was called. There's Daddy sitting there I don't know who the man is beside him. I'll attempt to take the photographs, old photographs that I have, and put them on tape. I won't get them in families or in lines. I'll try to keep them as much as possible together, but with so many pictures, it's hard to sort them out and get them in line. So that's a picture of Dad. The earliest picture I think I have of Dad. Now this is Mom and Daddy on their wedding day, which was September the 7th, 1898. That is from the original. That's the original picture that they have. We have some others I'll show later on that is touched up, maybe a little plainer than that. Right after Mom and Dad was married, they lived in Washington, D.C. just a short time. And this is a picture of Dad taken in front of the Capitol. And their home was on P Street, and the house they lived in was torn down when they built the Union Station. But this about was right after they was married. The next several pictures will be of Dad and the men he worked with in Continental Life Insurance Company. I don't know the men's names, but these are all taken before 1917, 1918. That's Dad standing there with one of the men that works for him. This is Daddy at the same boarding house. I don't know whether that's the lady that run the boarding house or not, but for years Dad collected insurance for the horse and buggy, but this is his first car that he ever had. That's Dad and Jack Everhart, man who worked for Dad, fixing a flat tire there on his car. That's the first car that Dad ever had. This is Dad and some of the men that worked for him. Dad was division manager for Continental Life Insurance Company. That's Dad, the first person on the left on the second row. This is another picture. Daddy's on the far right this time. That's taken back in the 1910, 1915, somewhere along in that area. This is another picture of Dad and two of the men working for him, and Dad's on the far right this time. This is Dad in his office. I think this is in Winchester, and that's the secretary he had working for him there at that time. This is another picture in the same office there in Winchester. Dad's sitting on the right, and some man working for him is sitting back at the desk there. This is Dad in the second row, the second one from the left. This is some of the men in his secretary in his office. This is another picture of Dad. He's sitting in the far right with some of his men. I don't know. The names weren't put on these pictures, so I don't know who the men were. And this is a group picture of business meeting in the home office, and I can't get all the picture on this at one time, so I'll slide the picture over as I get to it. I don't know any of the names except Dad's, but this is a picture at the home office. So I'm sliding the picture on over so you can get a view of the whole staff. That is Dad on the far left standing. The back row. It's hard to get in this kind of situation, get a picture of the whole thing at one time. So this is about the best I could do on that. Now this is another large picture that I won't be able to get while I'm on at one time. That's Dad at the bottom picture and with a line around him. But this is the torn picture, and it's a large picture, so I won't be able to get them all in at one time. But these are the men that Dad has working for him. That's a picture of my mother's mother, Grandma Schatz. This is probably one of the last pictures.
And he finds a crack.
1923. Name was Pamela Pingley Schatz. Now this is Granddaddy Schatz. His name was Franklin. This picture was taken from an old tintype. It had been taken and touched up. I'll show the tintype in just a second. This is the old original tintype picture that the previous picture was taken from. Now this is a picture taken from the tintype before it was touched up. See that it has a lot of defects on it. This is the picture before of Franklin Schatz before it was touched up. Now this is Granddaddy Schatz's brother, Marcus Schatz. This is another one of Granddaddy Schatz's brothers, John Schatz. This is an old tintype picture, so it's a little dark, but that's John Schatz. Now this is a picture of Grandma Schatz as a young lady. And her name was Pamela Pingley Schatz. Now this is an old tintype picture that's Grandma Schatz in the center, in the black dress. I don't know who the other two women are, but it's an old tintype picture. This is a picture of Grandma Schatz standing in her backyard in Martinsburg. I have a picture of the house I'll show next. And this is a picture of Grandma Schatz's house in Martinsburg. The house where she passed away. 1923. The house is still standing and still occupied. This is Grandma Schatz standing in the backyard. She's holding a large gray cat. She had a real large gray cat. That was really her pride and joy. She thought so much of that cat. This is Mom at the age of 13. She's with Jim Hampton, her first boyfriend. She's 13 years old then. She hadn't been long over typhoid fever because she had real long hair, and they had to cut her hair off when she had typhoid fever. This is a group picture of Mama's family when she was a young girl. This is Alma, and she married Andrew Falk. And this is Nancy, and Nancy married William Spencer. And this is Aunt Sada. She was a nurse in Watch, and she was never married. Now this is Grandma Schatz. Now this is David Schatz here, and he was never married. This is Mama with her long hair. That's before she had typhoid fever. And this is Matty. She married George Ropp. And this is Franklin, Uncle Frank. I will try to get a closer up picture of those individually now. But that's as a group, so I will try to get individually as. Now this is the same picture. I just taken the whole picture. Now I got this. You can get a much better picture by taking the picture down smaller. That's on the far left. That's Aunt Alma Falk. Stand beside her in a little back is Nancy, and Nancy Spencer. Next in white dress is Sarah Schatz. She was never married. She lived in War. She was a nurse. That's Grandma Schatz sitting in front with the black dark dress on. That's David Schatz standing back of Grandma. Coming on over. That's Mama with the sitting up on a rock with long hair. That's Mama. The next is Aunt Matty standing down in front of the. She married George Ropp, and that's Franklin sitting up on a big rock with Uncle Frank. Now these gives you, I can almost get the whole picture in there. I don't know if it shows on the screen or not that way, but that's the whole picture right there. This is best, about as good as I can get that. That's taken off of, I guess, the original picture, and the picture's kind of faded out and right bad shape. Now this is all of Mama's brothers and sisters. And so I'll take from left to right. That's Uncle Frank. That's Mama. That's Aunt Nancy Spencer. There's Aunt Matty Ropp. Then Aunt Sada Schatz. She was never married. Aunt Alma Falk. And Uncle Dave Schatz. And he was never married. That's taken in Aunt Matty's front yard in Martinsburg. This is another picture of the same group taken the same day, only they just rearranged themselves. That's starting on the left, that's Aunt Matty Ropp, Mama, Uncle Frank, Uncle Dave, Aunt Elma Falk, Aunt Nancy Spencer. No, Aunt Seda, pardon me. Aunt Seda's in the background, in the back. Then Aunt Nancy Spencer. Aunt Nancy's face looked like it didn't come out very good in that picture. This is another group picture, but Uncle Frank is not present this time. Starting from left to right, there's Mama, there's Aunt Seda, Aunt Elma, Elma Falk, and Matty Schatz, and Nancy Spencer, and Uncle Dave. Now this picture was taken the same day as the last picture on this. It has more of the family on it. So we'll start from left again. That's Mama, Aunt Seda Schatz, there's my daddy. Then there's Aunt Nancy Spencer, Aunt Elma, and that's Raymond Falk, Aunt Elma's son, stand behind her. There's Uncle Andrew Falk, Aunt Elma's husband. That's Aunt Matty Ropp, and that's her husband beside her, Uncle George Ropp. Now this is a picture of Mom and Dad when they're married. This is off of the original picture, but it's been touched up. I think it's a little clearer than the other pictures. That's a picture of Mama with a big pocketbook and umbrella. I don't know where that picture was taken, whether Martinsburg or Winchester or Stanton. Now this picture is pretty well faded out, but this is a picture of Mama holding my little brother Terry. Now this is an old tin type of Daddy and Mama was holding Terry. Now this is Terry. This was taken after his death. He was brought home from the funeral parlor, as they always did bring home the bodies before the funeral. And they put him in his bed. That's where he stayed till the time of the funeral. So that's Terry at home after his death in his bed. Now that's a picture of Ruth when she was just a very small child. And that's the picture of Ruth, and that had a big family dog, black dog named Pete. So that's a picture of Ruth with a big family dog, Pete. And that's another picture of Ruth with the big black dog named Pete. That's a picture of Margarita D. and Ruth. It's Margarita on the far left, and Ruth sitting in the background with a hand over her face, and Idea sitting apparently on the steps. That must have been taken in Winchester. Now this is my sister Marguerite and Ruth. And that looked like it was taken up in Aunt Nancy's side yard. I'm not sure. That's Marguerite and Aunt Alma's oldest daughter, Catherine. That's Catherine on the left, and Marguerite is on the right. These are three of Aunt Alma's daughters and my three sisters. That's Aunt Alma's daughters on the left. Start from left to right. In front, that's Lee, Pamelia, and Catherine. Then in the back, that's Marguerite, Ardelia, and Ruth standing in the front. Well, that's another one. I'm getting some relaxing time there again. That's Mama playing with me in the yard in Stanton. That's the house I was born in, right there. Now this is the house I was born in Stanton, Virginia. It's on Jefferson Street. That's Mama standing right where at the porch where the previous picture was taken. But this picture was taken in 1955. Freed and Mabel and Barbara took Mama to Stanton. She had that picture taken there in the back steps where she lived when I was born, in 1918. On that same trip in 1955, this is the house that Freed was born. It's on Church Street. And that's Mama and Freed standing on the porch of the house where he was born. That's Granddaddy Wheat holding me when I was an infant. I judged that was in Stanton, Virginia. Now this is a part of a family picture. I don't know who that lady in white on the far left is, but that's Mama holding me. Then that's Ruth standing in the background with the ribbon on the hair, and that's Granddaddy holding Freed, and that's Mariella, Gilbert's wife, right back of Granddaddy's head. Then standing in the back is Ardelia and Marguerite. But I don't know who that woman is next to Granddaddy, unless it would be his third wife. I don't. But I judge that woman is Granddaddy's third wife because it must have been taken in Stanton right after I was born. And her name would, if I was her name would be Maggie Rafferty. But if it's her, he and Granddaddy separated soon after that because he come to live with us when I was just beginning to walk good. Now this picture isn't too awful clear. It's the house we lived in Hilton Village on Warwick Road. It's the house that Jack was born in. And that's Ardelia on facing the side on the left. Ardelia is got Jack swinging out over the railing because he was just an infant. Then facing the front, I'm the youngster sitting on the banisters with Ruth holding me, and Marguerite is there on the right. That's a house in Hilton Village. Now that is Daddy playing piggyback with me. I don't know whether that was just before I left Stanton or when how long I've got to Hilton Village. This was soon after we got to Hilton Village. Right back of our house there was a large, very large playground and recreation area, and that's me in a little white dress in the swings there. I don't know who that boy is. But that's probably just before I stopped wearing dresses. And that's me in Hilton Village. That's that's a side street going down by our house. This is another picture of me. It looked like it could be taken up the edge of Hilton Village, because the James River run right on the edge of the little settlement we lived in called Hilton Village. James River run right along beside the village. This is a picture of Mama, my brother Freed, and myself. That's me on a tricycle in our side yard. The reason I know it's in our side yard because the people back was raised rabbits, and that's their rabbit pen back in the background. That's Ruth, and that's Freed holding me on the tricycle. I don't know whose dog it is, though. Not ours. That was taken in Hilton Village. Now this is a group picture that's Freed and I standing in front. Then in the back, starting at the left, that's Marguerite, Ardelia, Mama, and Ruth. That's Freed and I in Hilton Village. It must be on the side street beside our house. That picture is kind of dilapidated, stained up, kind of. This is me taken in 1923 in Grandma Schatz's backyard. Mama, Free and I went to Martinsburg for Grandma Schatz's funeral. And that picture was taken of me in Grandma Schatz's backyard. This is a picture of me taken at Aunt Nancy's in 1926. I spent the whole summer up at Aunt Nancy's in 1926. And that's a picture was taken in her side yard. That's a picture of Adelia. It's a school picture. It must have been taken, I don't know whether it was in Winchester or Stanton, probably Stanton. I have the group picture I'll show next. The same picture's on the group picture, but the group picture is getting kind of dilapidated. Now this is the group picture of Adelia's class. She has the names written on the back, but I won't read them off because there's no one I know, or any of us know. But that is, I can't get the whole picture on, so I'll just slide it over and we will just see the class. See, there's Adelia there in the picture. I'll bring it up again. We'll slide it over again. So we can see the picture's torn and stained up. And this is the bottom section of it. But she has all the names on the back of all that was in her class. Now this is a picture of Mama when she was a young lady. I don't know if I showed it before or not. I don't know whether this is a duplicate picture, but this is Mama when she was a young lady. Now this is a picture of Mama taken in Hilton Village. I don't know which home it is, because they're famous for their stucco houses, and we lived in 2 houses that were stucco. Now I don't know which one house it is. I don't know where this picture was taken, but that's Ruth standing in front of Mama's on the left, and Ruth standing in front of her. Then there's Ardelia and Marguerite and Aunt Nancy. That could have been taken up at Aunt Nancy's place at Garrett's Mill in Maryland. This picture was taken down on Main Street, which is Caroline Street now. We lived on Main Street. That's me in the far right in the back with a cap on. And that's Freed. And that's Aunt Elma's daughter Leah. And her baby's son. I think his name was Craig, I'm not sure. This picture was taken when we lived on Charles Street. It was taken October the 29th, 1933. That's Jack and me and Freed. Taken in the backyard. I think I've shown these pictures before, but this is my daddy's mother, Grandma Wheat. Her name was Clarabelle Horner Wheat. I think I've shown these 4 next pictures before, but I'll show them again before I put them away. That's my daddy's mother. This is my Granddaddy Wheat, my father's father. He lived with us for some 30 years or more. He passed away right after my father did in 1947. Mama, my mother. This picture and the picture of Daddy, the next one I'll show, is one of the best pictures that we have had of the 2 of them. Now this is a picture of Dad, and that's one of the best pictures we have of him. This is a picture of me. It must be right after we moved to Hilton Village, in the first house we lived in. This is a day in Hilton Village. A little stray white poodle dog come to our house, and we adopted him, and I started there holding Fifi, the little poodle dog. That's a D holding Jack in our arms in Hilton Village. That's the house that Jack was born in on Warwick Road. This is the Hilton Village Baptist Church. They didn't have a Christian church in that area, whole area of down there, so we all went to the Baptist church there in Hilton Village. They had a very large Sunday school annex or department on the back of the church. Now this is a picture of their Sunday school in 1922 of the Baptist church there in Hilton Village. It's all, they had awful lot of children there. This is one of Ruth's school pictures. They had a Easter pageant at school, and this is the girls that was in the pageant. Ruth is in the second row, the second girl from the left. They all had carrying baskets of flowers, and they all had different colored dresses, scallop hem, different colored dresses. All these pictures for a while now be taken in Hilton Village or right around that area. That picture is Clyde Hurston and Greta Baines is sitting up on the hood of the car, and that's R.D. and Cecil sitting on the bumper. That's an old Veely car. And that's a car that we come from Newport News to Fredericksburg in when we moved up here. There was 9 of us in that car from Newport News up here, and we some 15, 20 miles south of Fredericksburg, we turned over in that car with 9 of us in it. All these pictures will be from left to right. So that's from now on. It's Marguerite, Ardelia, and Greta Baines sitting on the bumper of the old Veely car. That's Ardelia standing in front of Dr. Francis' drugstore. That's where she worked, at Dr. Francis' drugstore on Warwick Road. That's Marguerite and Cecil Baines and Greta Baines. They were first cousins. Cecil is the one that Ardelia married. I don't know all that's in this picture. It's Marguerite on the far left and Adi on the far right, and Cecil Baines is in the center in the back without bareheaded. I can't remember the girl's name on the left, but that's Marguerite standing in the back. Adi is on the right, and that's Mary Holland sitting down in front. That's Marguerite there in that picture. That's Marguerite and Adi there in Hilton Village. I have a boosted little snapshot that I'm not going to show because it's so many of them we don't know, and it's, so I won't show all the snapshots. Dee enjoying a bit of watermelon. That's Marguerite. Showing some of these snapshots because of other. That's Cecil Baines on the right. He's the one who married Adi, and that's his brother Leonard Baines on the left. This is Marguerite up on the beach there at Hilton Village in the James River. That's Marguerite in the foreground on the left in her bathing suit. This is another picture of Marguerite in her bathing suit. She's the one standing in the back on the left. This is a picture of Mom and Daddy. I think this was taken at Buckrow Beach. I wouldn't say for sure. I think I was taken at Buckrow Beach. This Daddy and our dog Trixie, taken out of Greenway Farm, place we moved when we first come from Hilton Village up here. And all the way in the background, that is Dorothy Wheat Jones. This was taken in the wintertime, about Christmas time, and Gilbert and family come down for the holidays. That's our Delia and our dog Trixie, taken in the front yard out of Greenway in Stafford where we lived. This is our Delia with one of our milk cows named Daisy. This is taken over in Greenway. In the summertime, we had friends from Hilton Village to visit us. Last name was Savage. And from left to right in the front, That's Jack. And then there's Dorothy Wheat Jones. There's Eloise Savage, little girl. And I'm sitting in the front at the far right. On the back row, on the left is Freed and Louis Savage. That's about 23 or 24. Well, to give us a little change of pace from the immediate family, we go switch over and get some of Mama's people. That's Mama's older brother, Uncle Dave, has taken to Martinsburg. That's another picture of Uncle Dave. He's on the right there. There's another picture of Uncle Dave. He was a much younger man than that picture. This is another picture of Uncle Dave. He belonged to the Woodmen of the World, and that was their part of their uniform. A leather pants and jacket with a headgear and a large sword or knife. This is another picture of Uncle Dave as a younger man. All these was taken in Martinsburg, West Virginia. That's another picture of Uncle Dave taken in Martinsburg, taking Grandma Schatz's side yard, because he lived with his mother until her death in 1923. He worked for the railroad. These next group of pictures will be of Aunt Seda, Mama's sister. She was a public visiting nurse in Washington, worked for the city of Washington. That's her graduating from nursing school. And that's the uniform they wore. It was a gray uniform with a black tie or neck chief. She worked that was a lifetime job. After the nurses graduated from training school, they had to take a course in public service, where they went from house to house throughout the city, and this was one of the graduating classes of the nursing school. And after the graduation exercise from nursing school of Aunt Seda, and is in the back row on the left, and the lady in front of her, they were instructors that took them out on the streets from house to house, teaching them the ins and outs of personal nursing in the home. That's a close-up picture of Aunt Seda, and her only hobby or biggest enjoyment, she'd save her money and vacation time up for 2 or 3 or 4 years, then take a month or 2 months off for traveling. And she traveled all over Europe, all over the United States, some in the Caribbean, some in Northern Africa. So that was her most of her free time and money she could spare she spent in travel. This is a picture of her down in the Everglades of Florida. She's sitting on the back of a big alligator. This is taken to Boiler Springs at Grandma Schatz's old home place. This is the old log cabin that Mom was born in. That's Aunt Seda on the left and Aunt Matty on the right. Now this is Aunt Seda someplace in Italy. She's feeding the pigeons down in front of the big statue there. Of course, all overseas trips to Europe and Africa and all, she traveled by boat because and she says she got almost as much enjoyment of the travel in the boat as she did after she got to her destination. Oftentimes she said she'd sit on deck all night long, wrapped up in a blanket, just enjoying the ride of the ocean. This is a picture of Aunt Sada up at Aunt Nancy's. And Nancy had taken all the shutters off the house and was painting the house while Aunt Sada was there visiting her. This is Aunt Sada at the summit of Mount Washburn. This is Aunt Sada visiting the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. In summer 1941, Aunt Sada took Ardelia on a trip cross country to California, Grand Canyon, and for about 3.5 weeks. And this is on one of the tours that they was on. That's Aunt Sada at the far right, and Ardelia's in the light dress in the center. On that trip they went up on Pikes Peak, and this was July the 17th, 1941. On top of Pikes Peak, and that snow piled up in back of them in the middle of July. That's Aunt Elma, Mama's sister, Elma Falk. That picture was taken probably back in the mid-1920s. I don't have but a few pictures of her family, about possibly half a dozen. That's Marguerite in the rear on the left, and Catherine Falk, and Elma's oldest daughter. Then on the front on the left is Lee, and I was next to the youngest daughter, and that's Ardelia. Now that's a picture of Ardelia and Pamelia. That's Ardelia laying in front, and that's Pamelia in the background. Pamelia is the only one of Aunt Elmer's children that is still living. She lives in Martinsburg. She lives in a big house alone. On the left, that is Catherine Falk, that's Aunt Elmer's oldest daughter, and Marguerite. They were growing up. They were real close friends because Marguerite lived in Martinsburg and in Winchester, so they were very close. This is another picture of Marguerite and Catherine. Marguerite on the left and Catherine, Aunt Elmer's oldest daughter, on the right. Now this picture was taken on Dot and Gibbs' front porch when they lived on Virginia Avenue. And this is the last picture that we have of either one of Aunt Elmer's children. In the front, that's Ardelia on the left and Catherine on the right. And in the back is Marguerite on the left and Pamelia on the right. And say Pamelia is the only one living, and she lives right straight across the street from the house that this picture was taken in. Now this is Mama's sister, Aunt Matty. She married George Ropp. There's Aunt Matty Ropp there, taken in her front yard. Now that's a picture of Aunt Matty taken in her side yard. Her yard looked like a jungle because of grape arbors in the garden and flowers, and you could hardly get through it for the growth that was in it. Now this is Aunt Sada and Aunt Matty at Walnut Springs. That's the old log cabin that Mama was born in. That's Aunt Sada on the left and Aunt Matty on the right. Now this is George Ropp, Uncle George, Aunt Matty's husband, and Aunt Matty. He was a great old man. Aunt Matty and Uncle George had two children, Paul and Clarence. Paul is the younger one there. That's Clarence, the older one. Clarence is still living. He lives in Massachusetts. He's paralyzed and had a stroke and paralyzed, and his wife Emily takes care of him. I hear from him every 2 or 3 months. And that's a picture of Paul Ropp, and my Uncle George's youngest son. He never was married. Now this is Clarence Ropp. He's the one that's still living. He lives in Massachusetts. I said he's had a stroke and is paralyzed, and he's been in that condition about 5 or 6 years now. That's another picture of Clarence Rupp. Now this is Uncle Frank, Mama's youngest brother. I have a slew of pictures of him, but I'll only put a few on because there's so many. Uncle Frank, same as Uncle Dave, he was never married. But Uncle Frank was strictly an outdoors man. You see through the pictures that he was strictly he was a painter by trade, but he loved his farm. He had a farm up on Cumberland, Maryland, right on the side of the mountain. See him there, he has a white rabbit in one hand and a little brown puppy in the other. Here's Uncle Frank with a couple of his cows. Yeah, here's Uncle Frank sitting astride his prize sow hog. He loved outdoor sport. He loves fishing. And there he is with a catch of fish. There he is, just back from a day on the fishing, and I don't stand a big fish on, but he could really tell a fish tail, so I mean, he really elaborated on that catch. Uncle Frank never was married, but a lady that lived up on the side of the mountains took care of his home. That's Uncle Frank and Mrs. Files. She lived up on the side of the mountain. She did a lot of taking care of the housework for him. Now this is Uncle Frank feeding his litter of pigs. There's Uncle Frank with one of his mules. He very seldom had horses. He loved his mules. Sometimes he'd have 4, 6, 8 of them. Here's Uncle Frank plowing his field with a team of mules. But I say he was an outdoor man. He loved fishing and he loved hunting, but most of his hunting he loved bear hunting. He'd take off for 3 or 4 weeks in the wintertime and just live in the woods bear hunting. These next pictures will be of Aunt Nancy's family, Aunt Nancy Spencer, Mama's sister. That's her as a young lady. That's also a picture of Aunt Nancy before she married Uncle Billy Spencer. This is another picture of Aunt Nancy as a young lady. Now this is Aunt Nancy and Uncle Billy, William Spencer. That's the only picture I think that I have of him. He is a great old man. I can't get near all of this picture in. This is Aunt Nancy's first Christmas after she married Uncle Billy and moved there at, it was called Garrett's Mill then, but it's Weaverton, Maryland. This is a picture of Aunt Nancy with Uncle Dave's clothes on and his shotgun and cigar in her mouth in Grandma Schatz's yard in Martinsburg. This is Aunt Nancy, 1923. This is Grandma Schatz's side yard. This is at her death. This picture was taken right after the funeral. That's another picture of Aunt Nancy in Grandma Schatz's backyard. That's Aunt Nancy in her yard at Weaverton. This is another picture of Aunt Nancy in her yard. I guess the reason I have so many pictures of her here, I guess she was my favorite aunt, both on Mom and Daddy's side. That's a picture of Aunt Nancy. That is not at her home. That's at Marlow. That's where they have the tent meetings. Marlow, West Virginia. That's Aunt Nancy and Uncle Dave. That's taken in Aunt Matty's front yard in Martinsburg. That's at Aunt Nancy's front porch. It's wintertime, we see the snow banked on the ground. That's Aunt Nancy on the left and Aunt Sada in the center, but I don't know who that lady is on the right. That's Aunt Nancy in the yard in a work dress. And Nancy was a powerful big woman. That's another picture of Aunt Nancy in the yard. That is Mama on the left and Aunt Sada in the center and Aunt Nancy on the right. That must be taken inside the house that Aunt Matty's looks like. Here's another picture taken the same place. That's Mama on the left, Aunt Sada in the center, and Aunt Nancy on the far right. This is a picture of Aunt Nancy feeding her chickens. Aunt Nancy sitting on the porch. Aunt Sada brought a canary bird all the way from Washington on a train in a bird cage as a present for Aunt Nancy. Aunt Nancy and Uncle Billy didn't have any children of their own, but Uncle Billy had 4 children by his previous married 2 boys and 2 girls. The 2 girls that were invalids. This is Anna, the youngest girl. You know, she stand there at the tree and then, but she's already taken with some disease, that very crippling disease. That's her as a really young girl. This is another picture of Anna Spencer, and that's his youngest stepdaughter. This is Anna in the mid-1920s. We lived in Greenway Farm in Stafford, and she spent the summer with us. And you can see that to stand, she's swayed back, and she has to catch hold to the back of her hose or panties in the back to stand up. Eventually she was in a wheelchair. Now this is Audrey, and Nancy's oldest stepdaughter. I've always known her in a wheelchair. She lived to be in her mid-40s, and Nancy had to just take care of her like a baby. She could feed herself by using one hand to bring the other hand up to her mouth. But Nancy took care of those 2 girls with great love and care. Now this is the only picture I have of all 4 of the Aunt Nancy's stepchildren. It's Audrey sitting in the rocker. They had to carry her out and put her in the rocker. And that's Anna on her right. Then the boy on the left, that's Morris, the youngest boy. He became a Pentecostal minister. That's Norman. He worked most of his life in New York. But the 2 girls were invalids from real young teenagers. And Nancy took care of both of them in the home by herself. And they very seldom ever missed Sunday school and church. Is one thing that was really marvelous about the family. Now that's Norman Spencer. That's Aunt Nancy's oldest stepson. Say he lived in New York most of his life. That's Norman Spencer, minus D, and Nancy's stepson. And that's Pamelia Falk, Aunt Elma's daughter. They're in Aunt Nancy's yard. This is in Aunt Nancy's yard. It's Catherine Falk, Aunt Elma's oldest daughter. And that's Norman Spencer, and Nancy's oldest stepson, and Marguerite, my sister. This is another picture in Aunt Nancy's yard. That's on the left, that's Pamelia Falk, Aunt Elma's daughter, and Norman Spencer, and Ardelia. It's Norman Spencer and Ardelia in Nancy's yard. This is a group picture. On the back row, on the left is Anna, Catherine Falk, Aunt Emma's oldest daughter, and Marguerite. And on the front row on the left is Ardelia, Audrey and Nancy's stepdaughter, and Pamelia Falk, Aunt Emma's daughter. Now this is Granddaddy Wheat, Daddy's father, and he lived with us some 30 years from, he passed away in 1947 at the age of 97. Now this is Daddy's mother, Granddaddy's second wife, name was Clarabelle Horner Wheat. I have quite a few pictures of Granddad that won't be set up according to age, because but that's Granddad when we first moved on Charles Street in Fredericksburg in the 1930s. That's Granddaddy and Dad in the backyard on Charles Street. That was taken in possibly the early 1940s. This picture of Granddad sitting in the front yard on Charles Street, and that's Jack on the far right. There's another picture of Granddad sitting in the front yard on Charles Street. Miss Granddad standing on the sidewalk in front of the house on Charles Street. That's Granddad's niece on the left. I don't know what her name is. And Granddad, and that's one of Granddad's sisters, and I never did get what her name was. And that's Granddad in the back of the house on Charles Street. That's Granddad's brother James, Uncle Jim. And his wife, and I don't know what her name was. That's Granddad's brother James, Uncle Jim, and that's his wife. And that's Granddaddy. We all went together in the early 1930s and sent Granddaddy on a trip to see his daughters and his family out in the Midwest. Asked Granddad in the mid-1940s. He passed away in 1947, so that was just not too long before he was taken sick the last time. This is Granddaddy out at Fried Mabel's home. I think this is the only picture we have taken of Granddad with eyeglasses on. He very seldom wore eyeglasses. We don't have an awful lot of pictures of Daddy's people, but we show what we have. That's Marguerite, my sister, with Aunt Virginia Kaiser. Her first husband was named Faree, and the second husband's name was Kaiser. This is a picture of Aunt Virginia with Ardelia. This is a picture of Aunt Virginia, Dad's sister, with Mary Wheat, Mary Wheat is daughter of Edgar Wheat, Dad's brother. I don't know where this picture is taken. I don't know who the woman is on the left, but the woman on the right is Aunt Virginia. This is another picture of Aunt Virginia. This is another picture of Aunt Virginia. On the back it says this picture was taken in 1966. This is a picture of Albert Faree, Aunt Virginia's son by her first marriage. He passed away a year ago this past June, which has been dead just a little over a year. And this is a picture of Aunt Virginia's daughter, Dorothy. When she was an infant. This is Dorothy Carr's Aunt Virginia's daughter as a young lady. And this is a picture of Dad's sister, Aunt Mabel Allerbach. She lived in Des Moines, Iowa. This is another picture of Aunt Mabel Allerbach later in life. Now this is three of Dad's sisters in the younger years. That's Aunt Virginia Kaiser on the left. In the back is Aunt Essie Shomo. And on the right is Aunt Matty Allerbach. That's Aunt Essie's son named Boyd, and they give him a nickname as Peaches. This is Aunt Essie's daughter named Madeline, Daddy's sister. Aunt Essie's family, after children grew up, that's Madeline on the left, and that's Boyd, nicknamed Peaches, in the center. That's Dad's sister Aunt Essie Shomo on the right. Now this is Daddy's half-brother, Charles Wheat. He was a rolling stone. No one ever knew where he was at. He'd show up and disappeared out of thin air. And this is another picture of Charles Wheat, Dad's half-brother. And this is another picture of Dad's half-brother, the man on the right in the Western outfit. Now this is a real large picture, so I'm going to be able to get part of it in. This is Daddy's sister, Matty. That's her husband, Pete Smith, and their little daughter. I don't know what her name is. They lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is another picture of Aunt Matty, Dad's sister. There's Aunt Matty standing in the back, and her husband Pete Smith, and the two children. I said that was Aunt Matty. That's Aunt Mabel. She's the one who married Pete Smith. Same one with this. This is Aunt Mabel married Pete Smith. Now that's Aunt Virginia Kaiser, Dad's sister, and Aunt Mabel, Mrs. Pete Smith. And that's Aunt Mabel on the left and Aunt Virginia on the right. Now that's Dad's sister, Aunt Belle Gunn from Baltimore. That's after Granddaddy's funeral. That's a picture of Aunt Mabel in the little younger days. She went and married Pete Smith. That's Aunt Belle Gunn, Daddy's sister. That's taken at the Maryland State Capitol. That's Dad's three sisters after Granddaddy's funeral. That's Aunt Belle on the left, Aunt Mabel, and Aunt Belle. That's from left to right. That's Adelia, Gilbert, and Barbara, Marguerite, Aunt Virginia, and Aunt Belle. That's from left to right. It's Aunt Belle, Aunt Virginia, Aunt Mabel, and Mama. From left to right, at the top is Aunt Virginia, Aunt Mabel, Mama, Marguerite, Mary Wheat, and Adelia. I don't know who that is on the left in the back, but Aunt Belle is on the right, and Aunt Virginia sitting down in front. This is Aunt Mabel on the left and Aunt Belle. This is a family eating watermelon. That's starting at the left is Aunt Belle, Aunt Mabel, Mary Wheat, Aunt Virginia, and Mama. That's Aunt Mabel on the left and Aunt Virginia on the right, and Mama sitting in a chair in the back. That's Aunt Mabel on the left, and Mom in the center, and Aunt Virginia on the right. On the steps there on Winchester Street. Starting to the left is Aunt Virginia, Aunt Belle, Aunt Mabel, and Mama. This is the grave of my my three brothers that died in childhood. Two brothers and sister, pardon me. Douglas and Terry, my sister Wilber Ada. Said they was putting flowers on their grave. I don't know if you can read the names on it, but as Douglas' name is on the left, and Terry's is on the right, and my little sister Wilber Ada is at the bottom. All three of them died real young. This was taken the last time Morgan and I went to Martinsburg, before Marguerite was taken sick, and they visited the grave of Douglas and Terry and Wilber Ada. This was taken to Oak Hill Cemetery in Fredericksburg right after Granddaddy's funeral. That's the grave site.